be back. She'll be back. It's not that each senator will exhaust all of their inquiries. It's just
Thank you, and welcome. It's nice to be back talking about forests and forestry. Look, I'll start with just an update as to how the renewal of the regional forest agreements is going.
I'll ask Ms Lauder to do that.
So I'll start with Tasmania. So the Tasmanian RFA has already been reviewed, as I think we mentioned last time, and we're in the process of extending. The current Tasmanian RFA ceases in November 2017, so that's why this one is progressing ahead of the others. So we are in the final months of that process. On Victoria...
With the Tasmanian one, so when do you expect to be making an announcement of the results of the review and the evaluation and have a new RFA being signed off?
So the results of the review and the joint government response are already public, so that is already on the website. As far as the extension goes, we are obviously planning for it to be extended before November. We're hoping for it to be done August-ish, but it really depends on the process. So Tasmania needs to take it through their cabinet, and First Ministers, so the Premier of Tasmania and the Prime Minister, are the decision makers. So I can't give you an exact date.
So you're currently in negotiations with the Tasmanian government, I presume,
yes.
About are there issues that still need to be resolved?
We're in the very final stages, so it's just minor tweaking of words and things like that to agree.
And I think I asked a question on notice about the proposed expansion of the Tasmanian government to 370,000 hectares of forest.
Yes, you did.
How is that being taken into account with the rollover of the RFA?
So it is. It's already noted in the RFA. As you know, the RFA agreement is a framework document, and Tasmania run the day-to-day management of the wood supply and conservation reserves, etc. underneath that. So it's already covered under the Regional Forest Agreement, and they're...
So basically it's not making any difference. So.
No, it isn't.
Okay. Yeah. And I also asked a question which I got a very, let's say, succinct answer about how the changing understanding of the impacts of climate change and forests' role in mitigating climate change is being taken into account with the new Tasmanian RFA. So can you expand on that for me?
I can. So I think we mentioned last time that the Regional Forest Agreement Act is based on the National Forest Policy Statement, which does talk about carbon. But from the consultation we did on the extension for Tasmania, it was raised a number of times that people didn't think that climate change and carbon were considered as part of the RFA. So we are looking at trying to include some clause in the RFA extension. Hasn't been agreed yet, and it won't be agreed until it goes through to First Ministers, but that is something that we're looking at.
So what sort of options are you considering?
I really can't give you the detail yet.
But you must have some options if you're looking at it at the moment.
So
I'm not asking you to say what you are making a recommendation about. What are the options being looked at?
It's not so much options. We are, I guess we're putting forward an option. So we're looking at what is already being done. So what, as far as carbon and climate change, was already being managed. It just wasn't articulated in the Regional Forest Agreement. So looking at articulating that so that it's very clear to members of the public that that is part of the management of the forest.
Okay. All right, so continue. So we've done...
So we've done Tassie.
Tassie, yep.
So Victoria, we have been working with the Victorian Government on the review of the 5 RFAs. And so the document that goes out for public consultation, which is looking at the implementation and operation of the RFA of the last 5 years, that's been put together and is in the final stages of being completed. And then we're looking at doing consultation from July.
What form of consultation? How long? Is it just going to be asking for submissions on that document? Is it?
So the plan is, we haven't agreed with Victoria yet, so we're still in discussion, but the discussions at this stage are looking at putting the document out and calling for submissions for the review, which is looking backwards, and then doing consultation on the extension, which would be more face-to-face.
Okay. Okay, and how long is the period of time that you expect to have that document out for consultation?
Between 6 and 8 weeks.
Right. And is it how is it interacting with the Victorian Government's task force process?
Not really. So you might have noticed the Victorian Government put out a media release saying that the task force now will be an advisory group to the Victorian Government. So the Victorian Government possibly will be using it to seek advice on the not so much the review but the extension of the RFAs. But we are focusing more on the review until it's open for public consultation so that we can then really focus on the extension. And as you know, the review and the consultation from that will input and be an important input into the extension process.
So there's no expectation then that there would be a report from the task force process before you go into that consultation process?
Senator, we're not in control in any way of the task force.
No,
It's
I
obviously
understand that, but clearly it's an issue in terms of your negotiations with the Victorian Government because the two processes interact.
Yeah, certainly, but it is a process that has to come via the Victorian Government. So, whilst we would obviously welcome any information that came via any process to factor into a consideration, it's not something that we have any control over. So we're really just going to have to wait and see whether it comes our way or not.
Okay. And how about the remaining states?
So Western Australia has been out for consultation on the review, and the independent reviewer has...
So that review it's the combined second and third assessment, isn't it?
I think it's just the third for Western Australia. I think New South Wales is the combined second and third, yes. So Western Australia, it's just the...
Oh, so Western Australia, actually, we did have a second review independently by itself. That's a bit remarkable compared with New South Wales and Victoria and Tasmania, I think, as well, wasn't it? Yeah. Anyway, so...
That's because it doesn't take us half hour to do 30 minutes work.
So,
which, of course, is not a condition that
sorry,
struck us
I
down
distracted you.
That's all right.
Laura.
So the independent reviewer has developed his report, and so the Western Australian Government and the Commonwealth will work together on a joint government response to that, and are starting discussions on the extension of the Western Australian RFA.
So that joint government response, so that when is that expected to be released?
We haven't even started talking about it, let alone because the independent reviewer's report has just been received.
Right.
But I would expect
it could be ages then. Sometimes it can be 18 months, can't it?
I'm hoping that it will be within 3 months, but as you say, we haven't even agreed with the Western Australian Government yet on the time frame for that and the process.
Right, and so it would be after that response is out, then you would begin a process for the extension.
Formally, yes. We will start the conversations about the extension earlier than that, partly because we have seen from the Tasmanian experience that it takes a long time because you're going through words even. So, we will start discussions early.
Okay.
And then New South Wales, so there's 3 RFAs in New South Wales. They are at a similar stage to Victoria in that we are working up the implementation documentation over the last period that will be used for public consultation.
So that implementation documentation, so tell me where we're at with so there's the second and third combined review?
Yes, for the 3 RFAs.
For the 3 RFAs, and what stage is that process up to?
So we're probably not in the finalisation of the implementation report, but close, so it's possibly a little bit behind where we are with Victoria. So we are looking at...
And is that considering all 3 of the New South Wales RFAs together?
Yes, it is. Yes. And so there will be public consultation, so that document will be made public and we'll be seeking submissions.
When is that expected to occur?
I would say late July, August, possibly for it to start.
Right. And so then what? And then...
So then once the consultation has been completed, the independent reviewer will take all of that into consideration as well as all other information to put together an independent review. That will then come to Assistant Minister Ruston and the Minister in New South Wales. We will then work with them to have a joint government response to that, and move on to then looking at extending the New South Wales RFAs.
And will that RFA, that will combine all three? So
Yes.
essentially, will it be still 3 RFAs? And in fact, for Victoria, will it be a number or will they all be wrapped up as one?
It's an excellent question. We're looking at wrapping up the processes into one. Victoria has expressed interest in it forming one RFA, and we're currently getting legal advice on the possibility of that.
Okay.